Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I am so glad to see you all on here this morning. We have got a great lineup for you for today and for future days. So we have a lot to talk about. So without any further ado, let's just roll right into the video because that's what you all love to see, anyways. Welcome back to Vision Alignment, where we're talking about how important it is for us all to be able to embrace our own personal blindness to achieve a greater vision for our lives. So we all have blindness in our lives. So my blindness is a little more apparent than most people's, but we all have blindness. So understand that blindness is going to help us to be able to propel us forward because we're going to be able to take the blinders off and we're going to be able to see the impact that we're having. So blindness is not always negative. So, we have a great lineup for you for coming up for the rest of the week. But for today, I want to tell you about the one guy that we have coming on, and his name is Phil Sorrentino. Phil is a longtime friend. I mean, we've known each other for minutes, but I can't say enough good things about him. Here he is. Without any further ado, Phil.
Hi, kids.
Hey. Thank you for joining us, Phil.
Well, it's my pleasure.
Now, I understand that you are originally from Columbus, Ohio, where I am, and now you live in Fort Lauderdale, which is a beautiful area, and I'm sure the weather there is a little bit different than what it is here.
Yes. But for me, the weather tells me what kind of clothes to put on and how long it's going to take me to get someplace. That's about what the weather, that's what it means to me, because you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So you got to accept it and adjust accordingly.
Yeah, that's for sure. So I want to give you some time here, Phil, and I'm going to go away for a little bit, not too far, but I'm going to go to the green room. And while you're talking, I want you to tell us your story. Give us 2 or 3 minutes on your story, if you would, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
It was a dark and stormy night. A shot rang out. A baby cried. No. Well, first of all, I didn't become Italian until I was 20 days old. I was adopted. That's when I became Italian. That's when I made my first sale, was 20 days. It was all eye contact and body language. Although my dear Sicilian mother said she picked the one next to me and they gave her the wrong one. Buyer's remorse. I get a call about 20 years ago. Is this Phil Sorrentino? Yes. Were you born on August 1st, 1951? Yes. We're with Reunite. We put adopted families together. You have a sister that wants to talk to you. You interested? I said, well, Cheers is starting. Can I call you back? I found I'm one of 7 kids on my biological mother's side. I'm her third by the time she was 18 by 3 different guys. Mother. Well, now I know where I get my sex drive. I get my biological mom on the phone for the first time in my life. I said, Mom, I've always teased I was conceived in the back seat of a Buick. She says, I really don't remember what kind of car it was, but it was the back seat. My adopted sister died when I was 2. My adopted father died when I was 6, 3 days after Christmas. My adopted mother got into alcohol and suicide attempts when I was 9. So I have no abandonment issues. Wink, wink. I'm ADD and dyslexic, so the nuns and I got along swimmingly well. I had a nun in the 4th grade whack me in the back of the head with a music book. I turned around. She said, that's for everything I've never caught you doing. I turned around and said, well, you better hit me again. And she whacked me a second time. Started to work when I was 11. When I was 11 years old, I sold popcorn at the Ohio State football stadium. Cleaned toilets for 80 cents an hour when I was 14 at the Burger Boy Mainliner on Livingston Avenue in Columbus, Ohio. And I was 5'1" when I graduated from Eastmore. I went out for football, but they already had one. But the past is the past is the past. There comes a time in every one of our lives where we have to say to ourselves, I'm going to stop letting my past ruin my past and ruin my past and ruin my future. Wherever you are in life, somebody's had it worse and made it, and somebody's had it better and blown it.
Okay, so that's good. That's
You're
good.
you're breaking up. You sound like a chipmunk for some reason.
Oh, really? Huh. Well,
I can't understand you.
It
was doing it before, and then it went away.
Yeah. Let me bounce off. I'll bounce off, and
I can't understand what you're saying.
Really? I've got to work on my microphone.
The forces of evil are conspiring against us. Evil is live spelled backwards. The devil is live spelled backwards. Race car is race car spelled backwards. There you go. You're back.
I'm back?
Yep. You just came back.
Really?
Yep.
I don't know what's going on. I'm hardwired, and who knows? So,
well, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Yeah.
So whenever you try something, you set up a contrast of it that you're either going to have it defeat you or you're going to break through it. It's just part of nature.
I think I can learn a lot from you, and I think our listeners can learn a lot from you as well. So how'd you get to be so smart?
I've always had this gift. When I was 6 years old, the first day back to Catholic school, my adoptive father died 3 days after Christmas. So think of it. You had Christmas, my dad dying, the funeral, New Year's. So I had some time to think. So the first day back to St. Catherine's on the east end of Columbus.
Yeah.
I raised my hand. I stand up. I say, God does everything that's going to happen. The nun said, yes, he does. I said, then how do we have free will? And the nun said, sit down and be quiet. And I said, you can't answer this one. This is kind of like a pretty obvious question, but you can't answer this. This is not going to be a good relationship. But in Conversations with God, Book 3, he answers it, but he uses technology as a metaphor, so I couldn't have used it back then on her. He says, when you play a video game, how does the character on the screen know how to move? Programming. All the potential moves for every character in every video game is programmed into the game, but you move the joystick. When God gave you your life, all of your potential moves are programmed into your life, but you move the joystick. And since God created the game, God's always going to win. So do you want to play on the team of love and forgiveness and compassion and take care of the poor and the sick and the people in prison? Or do you want to play on the team of pride and envy and deceit and jealousy and selfishness and lack? It's your choice. Pretty good answer, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a pretty good answer.
Yeah, I'm not smart. When I was 9 years old and came home and saw my mom wrapped around the toilet after taking an overdose of sleeping pills, I remember saying to myself, well, I'm going to have to figure this out on my own. So that started me on the quest of self-improvement and self-development.
So where did you go for self-improvement and self-development?
Oh, just anywhere I could, just paying attention, always doing the best, always going the extra mile. Jim Neer, who eventually became the president of Wendy's when I was 14 years old, I was at the Burger Boy Mainliner on Livingston Avenue mopping the floor, and Jim Neer said to me, hey, man, you're good. And I went, really? He said, yeah, you're good. And I had nobody telling me I was good in my life. Home wasn't telling me I was good. School certainly wasn't telling me I was good. Yeah. But Jim Neer told me I was good when I was 14 years old, and I remember like it was yesterday.
You need to have somebody tell you you're good. You need to have that. We all need that.
We all need that.
Yeah. So, wow. I've got so much to ask you. So, well, let's start with some standard questions we have. So, tell me, what is the biggest factor in your success? What do you think?
I would say my desire to make a difference.
Yeah. And how do you make a difference?
Well, my purpose in life is find a need and fill it. My name is Phil.
But
my name for 20 days was Richard Keith Costello. So should my purpose be find a need and dick it? Probably not. But my purpose is find a need and fill it through the power of praise, action, humor, money, and or trade by being loving, forgiving, and grateful to myself and others. Now, it started with find a need and fill it. Then I said, how? Through the power of praise. Action, do something. Humor, keep your perspective. Money and or trade. By being, we're not human doings, we're having to Eckhart Tolle, the power of now. By being loving, forgiving, and grateful to myself and others. So that's my purpose in life. And whether it's picking up a hitchhiker, changing a poopy diaper, helping a company create results for enjoyable solutions, because that's the mission of our business, Humor Consultants, I'm always fulfilling my purpose.
That's a good place to be, no matter where you are.
Right. Especially when you're easily distracted. Squirrels. It keeps you focused.
Interesting. So tell me, what brings you clarity? You seem to be so focused and so clear on what it is you do. What brings you clarity every day?
Oh, I read a lot. I just finished a book by Stuart Wilde called The Whispers of Winds. I've just finished another book called Time Collapsing. I'm reading another book called Control, Alt, and Delete. So there's a saying, the greater the sea of knowledge, the wider the shore of the unknown. The more you know you don't know. I know a lot less today at 69 and a half than I did at 59 and a half. And I know I'm going to know a lot less at 79 and a half than I do today at 69 and a half.
That's interesting to look at it. That's for sure.
It's all how you look at it. That's what we define your sense of humor. Because our business is called Humor Consultants. And we got the greatest definition for your sense of humor from my son's kindergarten teacher. Chad was in kindergarten. And yes, I have a Chad. He's not a hanging Chad. He's not a dimpled Chad. He's not a ripped Chad. He's not a pregnant Chad. He's Baghdad Chad. Went into the Army right out of high school. Went to Olentangy. And he did 2 tours of Iraq. Was a drill sergeant for 2 years. Was in charge of the SWAT team at Fort Knox, and currently is a master sergeant. The highest rank you can get is a non-commissioned officer at Fort Leavenworth. I think it's kind of ironic that the Humor Consultants created a drill sergeant. But Chad was in kindergarten. They're talking about your 5 senses. So Chad raised his hand. He said, "What about your 6th sense?" The teacher said, "Your 6th sense?" And Chad, at the age of 5, said, "Yeah, your ability to read other people's minds." I See Dead People was just a movie. In the parent-teacher conference, I went, yes! A tear formed in my eye. I turned to my wife, and he can't clean his room, but he's got this one right. And by the way, if you haven't read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, written in 1936, there's a whole chapter in this book called Your 6th Sense.
Yeah.
But she was a great teacher. She said, "Chad, what about your 7th sense?" And Chad said, "Your 7th sense?" And the teacher said, "Yeah, your sense of humor." So if we can agree that your sense of humor is your sense of perspective, then it's the combination, it's the distillation, it's a result of all the information that you process through your other 6 senses. So literally, your sense of humor ends up being your attitude. And don't we see people with attitudes? To quote my great late friend E. Larry Moles from Lima, Ohio, he said, "I see people walking around looking like they were weaned on a pickle." They get these attitudes. Well, where do you get these attitudes? Well, psychiatrists tell us between birth and 13. And for many of us, that wasn't a pleasant experience. Bradshaw says 98% of the families out there are dysfunctional. I disagree 100%. Any perfect childhoods? So it's never too late to change your perspective. It's never too late to change your attitude. It's never too late to take something that was wrong, that was painful, that was hurtful, that was negative, and look at it in a different way. Wayne Dyer says when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I got a cool picture. Me, Wayne Dyer, and Art Linkletter together. Do you know who Art Linkletter is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, is that cool?
That is cool.
I got a great Linkletter story.
Yeah.
Linkletter was adopted too, so when he would come to Columbus, I'd pick him up at the airport and take him where he wanted to go, take him back. Mike Frank let me do that. I've had Paul Harvey, Art Linkletter, Norman Vincent Peale, Zig Ziglar, Og Mandino, Earl Nightingale. But Linkletter says, "Phil, I got to tell you a story. When Disney was finishing Disneyland, he was out of money. He spent it all. He had no money, but he needed a spokesperson. And Linkletter was the Oprah of our generation. So Disney goes to Linkletter and says, "Art, I got no money for you, but here's what I'll let you do. I'll let you own the concessions of the park for all cameras and film." So for decades, if you bought a piece of camera or a piece of film at Disneyland, Linkletter got his cut. So he took that contract, walked over to Kodak and said, "Kodak, Would you like to be the supplier for cameras and film for Disneyland?
Hmm. Sure.
Yeah, isn't that a neat story?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I had Earl Nightingale in 1973 tell me it's un-American to buy an American car.
Why is that?
Well, they had what's called planned obsolescence. So they made the cars go bad when they had 50 to 60,000 miles on it. So you'd have to go back and buy another car. And that's when the Japanese had their quality. Who was the guy that Deming?
Yeah.
Deming. That's when he took the quality movement to Japan. And Earl Nightingale said, if we keep voting for junk, Detroit will keep making junk. So it's American to buy a foreign car these days because they're making quality. He told me that in 1973 up in Cleveland.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
You know who Og Mandino is? The greatest salesman in the world?
No.
Oh, man, what a great book.
Og Mandino?
Og Mandino. It's about this thin, picture the time of Christ. It's about a young man in a camel caravan who had some potential. The head of the camel caravan gave him 10 scrolls. He said, I want you to read each scrolls 3 times a day for 30 days before you go on to the next scroll. He did that, became the greatest salesman in the world at the time, and then passed the scrolls on to somebody who we're kind of familiar with. One of the scrolls is, I will greet this day with love in my heart. For love is the most powerful of all things. Muscles can split a shield and even destroy light, but the unforeseen power of love can open the hearts of men as the sun softens the coldest clay. I will love the sun, for it warms my bones. I will love the rain, for it cleanses my spirit. I will love the rich, for they are so few. I will love the poor, for they are so many. I will greet my enemies with love, and they become my brothers. I will greet my friends with love. I will greet my enemies with love, and they'll become my friends. I will greet my friends with love, and they become my brothers. I will greet this day with love in my heart. One of the most inspirational writers of our day.
Wow. And you have that memorized?
Well, I read each scroll 3 times a day for 30 days before I went on to the next one.
Wow.
He peed on my shoe, too, at the national convention. That's a great story.
How did that happen?
I'm standing there at the urinal, as we do as men. So that surprises anyone if you get a life. And Og Mandino comes up next to me. I say, hey, Og, how you been? He goes, Phil, I'm doing great, because I'd already picked him up at the airport in Columbus. He knew each other. I said, there's something I disagree with in the greatest salesman in the world. It's kind of gutsy to say that to Og Mandino, first of all, in the first place. He said, what's that? I said, it says it's better to aim for the moon and hit an eagle than aim for the eagle and hit a rock. He says, it does say that, sir. I said, well, that's true. You got to have 2 conditions for that to be true. He said, what's that? You better have a lot of arrows, and you better have a lot of time. For some crazy eagle comes flying by and you hit it accidentally while you're shooting at the moon. He laughed so hard he peed on my shoe. I said, oh, you're peeing on my shoe here. They asked me, where do I get my humor? I go, I follow me around and take notes. And everybody should do that.
Yeah.
You be more aware, especially during these times. We need hope. We need love. We need forgiveness. We need compassion. We need positivity now more than ever. And the great thing is by being that, you can differentiate yourself and stand out even more. Jack Welch says, during uncertain times, you weed out the weak players and the strong ones widen the gap.
Mm-hmm.
So the key is get strong mentally, get strong spiritually, get strong financially, get strong in your relationships. These are the times where you're getting strong, and that's the key if you're going to get through this challenge that we're in. And if you're doing anything that makes you weak, stop it. Quit doing it.
Right.
And if you do it right now, when we come out of it, you'll be better than you were before if you didn't.
So what would you say are things that make us weak?
Oh, overeating, being selfish, being judgmental, not forgiving, not being grateful, doing too much alcohol, doing too much mind-altering substances, not praising enough. Is that you? Do I got to keep going? Or?
You're good.
Oh, okay.
We're
Let's
good.
get into it. I have to look at something.
Oh, well.
Listen to Dave Caperton. That makes you strong. Dave's a good guy. He's amazing. He's a talent.
Oh, yeah, he is good. He is good.
Oh, and he's got a good heart. He's got a heart of gold.
Yeah. So he's been on this show a few times, and we've had a lot of fun. So he's
I got a great Caperton story. His son went through little challenges, right?
Alex.
Yeah, Alex. So I get to the hospital, And I finally get up to his room where his son is. It's like 11 o'clock at night. And the nurse said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I'm here to see Dave Caperton and his son." He said, "How'd you get up here?" I say, "I'm not telling." She goes, "What?" I says, "I'm not telling." She said, "No, I need to know." I go, "Why?" She says, "In case I ever forget my badge, I want to know how to get up here because you're not supposed to be able to." I was just going to get up there. It just made up my mind. I wasn't not going to get up there.
Yeah.
It wasn't negotiable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a great guy, and Susanna is great too. So
they're special people.
They're the best. They're the best.
Well, they're among the best. You don't want to make them the best. Too much pressure there.
Right.
They're among the best.
Yeah. We don't want to make them nervous.
Yeah, I never want to be king. Merlin had the better gig.
You want to be a sorcerer?
Yeah, I want to be the wizard. Show up, make my magic, leave, and call me if you need me.
I got to ask. I mean, what are some of the things you do to be so? You're obviously your reading is one thing, but there is so much that you provide and you offer to people. So how do you hone that down? Because you need to, when you're doing this, and obviously with clients, you need to be able to hone it down to make something right. Focused. You go back to where we were going originally with having a vision and making sure your vision is aligned with your core goals and your core beliefs. So how do you do that? What is it for you that brings you clarity?
Well, it's very simple. I tell people, when people call me up and say, "We'd like to have you come in. What do you speak about?" I go, "I don't know." They go, "What do you mean you don't know? You've been doing this since 1981 and you don't know what you speak about." I go, "Exactly." They go, "What are you talking about?" I go, "Prescription without examination and diagnosis is malpractice."
So you got to ask them first.
Right. So go to my website and click on questions for customizing your enjoyable solutions.
And there's more people joining on. So Carlos Vides, yeah, he loves your information. So I'm going to bring up your website here. I'm going to at least not bring it up, but I'm going to put it on the banner. So what is your website again?
And please, everybody that's listening to me, steal all these ideas and use them. I have trouble with speakers. They stand up and tell you this stuff. "Now, this is copywritten. If you use it, I'm going to sue you." Well, don't tell me if I can't use it, for God's sakes. So just give it out. You can't outgive yourself in the universe. It won't let you.
Right. And there's nothing new created under the sun. So what is your website?
Well, that's a new saying.
Yeah. What is your website again?
humorconsultants.com. That can. So back to where we were. Go to my website, click on questions for customizing your enjoyable solutions, and fill that out and email it back to me. By the way, how many direct reports do you have? Well, I got 5. I got 7 direct reports. Well, we want to make sure we do what they needed for us to do. They say, "Yeah, why don't you have them fill out the questions for customizing? That you'll get some insight on what they're thinking." Ooh, good idea. "Hey, tell me about your boss." "You mean Betty?" "Betty, yeah, we want to make sure Betty's happy." "Yeah, we want to make sure Betty's happy." Why don't you have Betty fill out the questions for customizing and get them back to us? And trust me, I get 5 to 7 of those questions for customizing filled out in front of me and increase my chances of closing that deal. Trust me.
Yeah, I'm sure. Because the more you know about your client or prospective client, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah.
And that makes total sense.
Yeah, and I make a commitment that, and I do a lot of different things. I think be different. If you're like everybody else, the only reason I should buy you, you're the lowest price. So it pays to be different. But I end my speech with no applause. I want my audience to be silently writing down what are they going to implement based on what we covered. Because when you think about the speakers that you've heard in your lifetime, they told something to you in a way that was so compelling that you got it. You went out and used the information and benefited from it. And you can name those speakers off like that. And I said at one point during Mercure, that's the kind of speaker I want to be. And I say, well, I don't want the audience to figure it out on their own. I'm going to tell them that's what I want them to do. So I start off by telling them, write down my choices. And I say, at the end, I'm going to have you fill this out. At the end, I have half the audience stand up to give the other half a standing ovation because I believe none of us give enough praise and none of us get enough praise. Then I had the other half participate. So at the end of my program, I got them screaming and hollering, yelling, reoxygenate themselves. So when they're done, they're feeling up. I said, okay, go back to that page I told you to start in. What are you going to do? And I go through what the client wants me to do, and I end in complete silence.
That's impact.
Well, why are you up there? See, today's audiences don't want you to present. They want you to be present.
Right.
And that's a subtle difference. And excuse me, I'm going to be crass right now to make a point. The old show up and throw up. I mean, that is done. And I use TV as the metaphor. Why? Soap operas, talk shows. What do we have today? Reality TV.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, today's audiences either want to be the stars or they want to be able to relate to the stars. So if you're doing a presentation, even if you have 1,000 people, you got to think of yourself as a facilitator, not as a presenter in today's marketplace, because that's what the audience wants. So your job is to energize that audience and list them up and give them ideas in such a compelling way that they get them, and then the next day they use them to improve their lives. And when you do that, you'll create a reputation, you'll create a critical mass, where then it becomes a question of attraction, not promotion. I just got a call yesterday from the Ohio Grocers Association. I spoke for them probably 20 years ago.
Really?
And they just called me yesterday, and they're looking for me to do something for them.
Huh.
Yeah, we started Humor Consultants in 1981. That's the year Reagan was firing all the air traffic controllers. So I'm coming to the marketplace to care for your people, create a nurturing environment. They're going, get away from me, kid. You're bothering. But I'm a Columbus kid. I learned from Lazarus. Were you familiar with Lazarus?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I believe Central Ohio has values of care for your customers and care for your employees more than most communities do, because of companies like Lazarus, mm-hmm. and Worthington Industries and Dave Thomas from Wendy's and Crane from Crane Plastics and Donato's from Donato's and Cameron Mitchell from Mitchell's Restaurants. Right. They all have these values. My adopted father died 3 days after Christmas, and I ran into Mr. Charles Lazarus. I said, Mr. Charles, what does the name Tony Sorrentino mean to you? He looked at me and said, best shoe man on the planet.
Really?
I said, Mr. Charles, he died when I was 6. He says, Phil, he turned our Better Women's Shoe department in the 50s into $1 million a year department.
Wow.
He says, there was nobody like him. I said, Mr. Charles, let me tell you what you did after he died. You went to my mom and said, Jeanette, we want you to work in our credit union, in our credit department, but we don't want you to leave home until you get that 6-year-old boy off to school and that 5-year-old boy off to school. And we want you to leave work early. So when that 6-year-old boy comes home, that 5-year-old boy comes home, you're there for them. This was in 1957.
Wow.
So take care of your employees and take care of your customers, and your business will take care of itself.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, it sounds amazing, but I mean, it shouldn't be. It's common sense.
Right.
Right?
Right. Well, common sense isn't very common.
Yeah. I agree with that. Wow. A lot to think about here. So I'm really interested in having you back on. So
sure.
We're already almost at a half an hour, which typically the show only lasts half an hour. So I think that we can learn so much more from you. And if you would be willing to come back on, I think that would be great.
Just let me know. I need a lot of notice to be prepared.
Right.
I don't just wing it. I prepare diligently.
You've been preparing for a few years.
Yeah. You can ask me about my kids. That would be fun.
Yeah. Tell us about your kids.
Oh, funny you should ask. My oldest is a nurse at Dodd Hall at the Ohio State University Hospital. She's got COVID, so we're praying for her. But she's been an angel. She's an amazing woman. She got her nursing degree while raising 4 kids.
Wow.
And her name is Toni Callahan, and she's incredible.
Okay.
My son, and the first 2 are from a previous marriage. My son, Philip, is a machinist, and he's just a genius in terms of fixing things and working on things. My son, I told you about him. He's a master sergeant in the Army. My next child was 3 when we bought the book Raising the Strong-Willed Child. She taught herself to read when she was 4. She graduated magna cum laude in politics from Ithaca College. She spent 3 years in Ghana, West Africa, living off her wits because she wanted to. She got her doctorate degree in culture and theory at the University of California, Irvine. And currently, she is in charge of the gender and race studies Guess what university that she's in charge of the gender and race studies?
I don't know.
Guess.
Oh, you're making me guess?
Yeah.
Gender and race. So,
gender and race. Where would be an interesting college or university be in charge of the gender and race studies?
Well, let's say it's someplace in the South. Alabama. I hit it!
You got it.
First try.
First try. I get a lot of Berkeley's. The best answer I got was all of them.
Huh.
That was the best answer. But yeah, so there's a Dr. Sarah Maria Sorrentino at the University of Alabama in charge of gender and race studies.
Wow. Wow.
And then my youngest is an executive recruiter in DC, and she specializes in finding executive assistants for CEOs.
Mm.
And she used to run an S&M, not an S&M. What is it? I just went blank. Now that's a whole different thing.
That's a different show.
I just went blank. Yeah, 3 years ago I started my adventures with Parkinson's. So sometimes my memory doesn't work as good as it used to, and I'm dealing with that kind of trip right now.
Yeah, well, we all have something.
Yeah, a friend of mine has a hair lip. He says everybody's got a hair lip. Mine just happens to be my hair lip. Yeah, I'm 69 and a half years old, and other than being born and having my tonsils taken out when I was 6, I've never been in the hospital. Still to this day, I've never spent a night in the hospital. I've very rarely went to a doctor. I wasn't on any meds until I got this adventure that I'm on. So I'm playing with house money. I mean, when you look at the big picture of my life, if I complain about my health, I ought to be ashamed of myself.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
Yeah, it's very rare. So I'm very blessed.
Huh. Yeah, I've spent a few nights in the hospital, even this year. So,
yeah, that's my point. So
yeah.
I got nothing to complain about.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So there's a lot of goes into all this. So but this is not about me. It's really more about you than anything. So.
Oh, it can be about you.
Well.
How about our guests? How about anybody got anything to chime in or question to ask? Or?
So let's see here. Anybody on that has? By the way, if you're listening to this, put in a hashtag live. If you're listening to replay, put in a hashtag replay. But as always, enter yourself into the raffle for a
new car.
Yeah, a new car. Not a new car. A signed copy of my book. Even better. Even better, right, Phil?
Well, it all depends on your goal. If you want transportation, not so good. If you want education, it beats a car.
So put a picture of you, a selfie, if you will, of you winking, and like I'm winking, and like Phil was talking earlier about winking. Put a picture of you winking, and that winking is all about helping you to understand what makes you unique. So I know what makes me unique, and it's not my eye. What makes me unique is my positive personality and how I'm able to overcome and to help other people with my story. So that is what makes me unique. So I'm encouraging you to understand what makes you unique, because if you can find out what makes you unique, then you can use it to make someone else's life better. That's what this is all about. So again, making sure you have a vision, but then also understanding your vision needs to be aligned with your core beliefs, your core values. So that is really what's important for us all to understand. That's the premise of the show. Yes, Phil.
May I make a suggestion? You familiar with these assessments they have out there?
Yeah.
You know, Myers-Briggs, DISC. There's one called Standout by Marcus Buckingham.
Standout.
But you go to marcusbuckingham.com. It's free, by the way. And he's the one that did the Strength Finders. Well, Strength Finders, and I use football as the analogy. You're a big guy. You can block. You got good hands, and you're fast. Well, okay, that's my strengths. Where do I put me to stand out? Well, in this example, it might be tight end. So it's a free assessment that you get to take. It's go to marcusbuckingham.com. It's free. And if you get a PDF and you want to send it to me at phil@humorconsultants.com, I will get together with you and your listeners. I'll go over the assessment with them, because I've gone when I do my coaching, that's part consultant, part coach. I'm a coach. If you're Italian, I'll bring you a cannoli. If you're Jewish, I'll bring you a knish. If you're French, I'll bring you a croissant. But you get a consultant and a coach with me. You get a coach. So but no, if you want to go to phil@humorconsultants.com, send the PDF to us, and then we'll find a time to get together, and I'll just go over it with you or any of your listeners to help them get better insight on how this. And so this actually gives you, based on your strengths, what roles you should be in to stand out. So what you're talking about, it helps you define where your uniqueness is. It's excellent stuff.
Awesome.
And
Okay.
it's free.
Free is good. Free.
Well,
And
the marketing has changed. You know, my generation, there ain't no free lunch. If somebody says it's free, you get suspicious. Now you expect free as a trial before you
Sure.
do it. So it's literally flipped.
Sure.
Even the top consulting firms in the country, they do that. They'll do a free session for any of the clients they want. And if that free session doesn't create value for them, then they weren't going to be a good client for them anyway, instead of trying to sell them beforehand.
Yeah. Again, that makes sense. Well, Phil, thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate your time.
Well, no, thanks for having me. What a platform. Again, I hope somebody takes the ideas that we've used and actually implement them.
Yeah. So
that's the greatest thing you can thank Brian and myself is take what you're learning here and go make a difference in the world, because it needs it now more than ever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to ask you to go back into the green room. I'm going to take you there in the green room, and then I'll close out the show, and then I'll come back to the green room and visit with you for a little bit. But thank you very much.
Love you.
All right.
By the way, you know what this is? You know what
What's
this
that?
is? It's a microwave.
And on that note, see you, Bill. Wow. What a great show. What a great show. That came up last minute. And Phil is obviously a great one to be able to help us with our vision, to help us to understand we have blind spots, and to help us to understand that we can make a difference in the world, and we need to make a difference in the world. We need to do something with what we have. So I'm just so happy that Phil was able to join us, and I'm looking forward to all of you learning more about the humor consultants with Phil, and then the standout assessment that Phil had mentioned here, and then also go to marcusbuckingham.com to get that assessment. But all good stuff, lots of goodness coming our way. So I want to make sure you continue to be fed with all good things. So I'm just so grateful you're here today, and hopefully you've learned a lot. If there's ever anything that I can do for you, please don't hesitate to let me know. But as always, keep one eye on the road.